Amazing. Thank you. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Really excited to spend a little bit of time with you guys today as we look at how to align employee experience to business goals. I think very important to kind of understand, there's been a couple of sessions before, as well as a couple of sessions you're going to be attending around, the products and features that are available out there from, let's say, Microsoft and others. Microsoft's got a recent suite branded with Viva, and there's quite a few modules there. And I think I want to just take an opportunity to take both a step back in terms of how those modules can tie in together, as well as how they can benefit your employees and the experience that they have day to day. So ultimate goal, and really would encourage everyone, if you have the opportunity, given that this is live as well, would encourage you to share some questions on your end through using Q&A on Microsoft Teams. The intent, the purpose, and the goal here is to really kind of broaden the horizon for everyone around how do you align people and projects to strategic business priorities. That's what we're going through and highlighting that quite a bit. So I'll move on to here. I think this has probably been stated hundreds of times. You've probably heard it multiple times as well. We're all going through quite a few significant challenges, and that's really challenging, I think, as a business. It's really challenging for individuals. I think each of these stats here that I'm going to share with you guys reflect even some of the feelings I personally have, some of the feelings and the business as Tulid has gone through, as well as many of our peers and those that we've been supporting and helping. So just collectively, there's a huge need with this rapid changing environment to operate faster. That's been really key. We've gone away from being in a centralized place to either being fully remote or being in a hybrid model, which has really changed in how we connect with our peers and our teams and our customers. And work definitely feels a little bit, disconnected, right? Now that you're not being in the same physical space. When it's remote, it's really challenging to kind of see how all those pieces come together and how you're focused. So even if we look at post-COVID, post-pandemic, this is not going to change, primarily because a lot of us are very comfortable with working from home and are comfortable with saying, you know what, I can be productive and have flexibility in my schedule. So companies are looking to do that quite a bit, and I think I'll share a couple of stats with you guys. There was a recent study done by MIT Sloan. If you do a quick Google search, there's a link there for you guys as well. As no one knows your strategy, not even your top leaders. Very important, I think, to kind of get a good reflection. Two things to keep in mind is a lot of times the top teams overestimate alignment. This chart that you're seeing here kind of summarizes kind of the gap in perception between frontline supervisors and middle managers and even employees and executives. If you ask any supervisor, manager, executive outside of the C-suite, where do they see their company? They typically rate the company as very high in terms of measurement, but what they don't have insight into is what are those metrics that they're feeling that the company is doing really well. So very few employees or managers, supervisors have insight into the company objectives, and therefore they kind of assume the company's doing fantastic, it's doing great, and they don't have that visibility. There is also another thing to highlight is I think there was a study done through MIT where there's a lack of agreement on strategy at the top. So this figure kind of shows that many of the priorities each member of the top team had that they listed, they kind of weren't aligned. 11 of the executives here, just over half of them knew the strategy, and the other half had no clue about the company's official priorities. This is a common challenge. Sometimes, you have a mission, you have a vision, you have strategic goals in place, and how to execute them, how to move forward to them is not always clear. And that's a really real challenge for not just executives, but also for employees. So I think step one for sure, biggest takeaway from this session today is acknowledge you have a problem, and then your job is to find out how big that problem is. because there is going to be one or a group or a team of people who are not going to have alignment with the business priorities, and kind of understanding how they need to execute and how they need to deliver to meet the company's vision and direction. There's a couple of stats I want to share with you guys as well around some studies that Microsoft's recently been doing for the Microsoft Work Trend Index. Similar study, they took a lot of the data from MIT, but they also kind of garnished it with some of their insights they've collected from executives. Is that employees at large are changing how they think they work. They're thinking about not only the work themselves, but they're also trying to question, why are they doing this work? What's in it for me? How does it actually feed into my personal growth? So just want to highlight, as we look at these stats, don't underestimate the changes every employee is going through. There are team members, peers in your organization, people that you work with that are either going through some personal changes that are life-altering, life-changing, like having a new little one, new addition to the family that kind of disrupts their day-to-day, or they have had somebody close to them be sick, or has unfortunately kind of passed on. So understanding people and understanding the impact that these changes are having to them is very important. Very few employers understand that, and with a hybrid environment, very few employees can understand what's going on there. So there is looking at some of these stats here. I think 50% of the businesses are planning to go back full in person. And I think right now we're probably past 50%. I think quite a few folks and businesses are comfortable. There's pockets that are not as comfortable, and there's some organizations who are not fully committed, but they are opening the doors quite a bit. So as you're looking at these kind of strategy changes that are happening, there was another stat around 28% of the senior leaders could name the top 3 goals in the company. So a third of the executives could name what the company goals were, and the other 2/3 did not have that insight. So it just kind of continues to highlight employees are looking for clarity. There's a disconnect that goes all the way to the top of this, to the C-exec suite. If you look at the leaders that are struggling with strategic alignment and visibility in a new world, that's also a challenge as well. In terms of aligning people's work to team and organization goals, another thing to think about is 87% of employees report that they are productive at work, and then about 12% of leaders say they have full confidence your team is being productive. So there's a disconnect there, right? Employees are communicating they are being productive, fairly productive, whereas leaders don't have that full confidence, right? So there's a huge gap there in terms of alignment and making sure everyone's kind of working towards this. Most recently in Microsoft's Work Trend Index, they highlighted productivity paranoia. People are working more than ever, and leaders are worrying more than ever that they're not getting the job done. So whether you're in the office or you're remote, this is causing challenges, causing concerns. Employees are feeling the pressure to prove that they are working, and just being digital is overwhelming, right? And that's soaring quite a bit. So again, the key here is employees need clarity. And as we kind of dive in a little bit deeper, here are some of the reasons why Microsoft decided a couple of years ago, I think it's been about 2 years now almost, where they decided to make Microsoft Viva, announce the Microsoft Viva platform during the pandemic. Is they also understood that employees, employee benefits, what employee benefits do companies think they get from an employee experience? They feel as they kind of adopt a platform, whether it's Microsoft Viva or another employee experience platform, there's a huge increase in things like personalized experiences, in satisfaction, improvement in well-being. So that, as companies invest into improving the employee experience, like Microsoft Viva, they're seeing a huge kind of trend upward where well-being and productivity engagement are increasing. If you continue looking at from a business perspective, that means you're seeing 70% plus increase in improved KPIs. You're looking at 60% improvement in stronger return on investment based on the tools that have been deployed, and you're actually seeing better innovation. People are working a little bit closer together and working through that. And then how do orgs measure the business value, return on investment on employee experience? They're seeing a lower cost in bringing on new employees. So onboarding has gotten a little bit more efficient, which has reduced the onboarding cost. There is actually more than a 50% increase in faster product development. And all the way across for boost in speed to market, to revenue, and almost 50% close to reduction of time to onboard. So you're seeing this huge change for customers that Microsoft has surveyed. I think it was 420 business leaders. They saw a huge return on their investment. And it's a reason why I think you're hearing a lot about Microsoft Viva and all that it's providing. So I will assume a few of you that are listening today have, the experience, work with Microsoft Viva on a daily basis, or are a consultant and supporting that. A few of you have not heard about Microsoft Viva at all, so this would be maybe one of your first presentations that you're learning about it and you're just trying to get onboarded. And there's, a few of you or majority of you have some sort of experience, whether you've gone through the overview and you had some insights. So I'm hoping today, by the way, my name is Kanwal Khipple. I'm the CEO founder at Lead. Been fortunate to be Microsoft MVP for a number of years, and very friendly in terms of helping individuals and teams adopt technology more effectively. You're welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and you can find Lead on the social networks. We recently just launched our TikTok channel, TikTok account as well. So excited about that. Today we're going to go through just a couple key areas. I think going to give a brief overview of Viva Insights, Viva Goals. Would love again for you guys to share in the Q&A, leverage the Q&A for any questions that you might have, feature insights, product roadmap discussions that you might want to have. Feel free to share that. I'm also going to be looking at kind of how do you build alignment among your leadership team? How do you actually get your leadership team aligned, and how can you leverage the Viva platform to get that alignment? And then look at some use cases, organizations that we've helped and others have helped, and how have they seen a huge benefit with adopting Viva Insights and Viva Goals. All right, so moving forward here, diving into a little bit of the product feature set. What is Viva Goals? It's the ability to kind of connect employees to the organizational goals. If your org has very clear fiscal goals that you've set, or quarterly goals you set, or there's some numbers and metrics, and whether they're qualitative or aspirational you're trying to hit, this just allows employees to know how the work that they do aligns to those bigger objectives. Viva Goals also allows you to kind of build and manage your OKRs, so it becomes this platform, this tool, this product where you can capture your objectives and your key results and track those. And along with that, you get a little bit of best practice guidance there as well. And I think probably the biggest benefit, and one of the reasons why Microsoft bought this product, originally was called Ally.io, a pretty popular product in the OKR space. Now renamed to Viva Goals. The reason they purchased it was it did a phenomenal job of integrating with other systems. So usually the biggest challenge with adopting an OKR-like platform is you have to go now, you do the work in one area. Let's say it's in a list, or it's in a task system, or it's in some other product. You've made updates there, and then now you got to go back to the OKR solution like Viva Goals, and you have to update that manually. Well, with Viva Goals, you have the ability to also integrate into your workflow and start getting some integration benefits from critical work systems. So those are kind of the three key tenets of Viva Goals. Now, connecting your daily work to big goals is important as well, right? So if you're doing work today, when we're talking about integration, if you're doing work today in Azure DevOps, ADO, you're doing your work in Microsoft Project, you're doing your work in some other platform, there are currently, I think, integrations that have been announced, and there's more coming. It also allows you within Microsoft Teams to access Viva Goals. Viva Goals is a Teams application, so you can access it. And then, of course, be able to kind of interact with the goals and interact with the people that are aligned to the same goals. So pretty exciting there that it's there in the suite that you're leveraging pretty frequently. You do have the ability within Viva Goals to also communicate, like kind of have chat messages in there, do check-ins during your connects, and then make updates as well to the to the OKRs directly through Viva Goals app. And it's a pretty straightforward, pretty intuitive app to use. I think probably the only experience that's a little bit weird to get comfortable with is just how do you align an objective and a key result. That's probably usually the hardest challenge for people in terms of tools adoption. So we'll go through that today. And then once you've kind of done, made this update, there are obviously opportunities where you can then start looking at some of these analytics and looking at some of the progress you're making on your goals, both individually as well as an organization, as well as a team. So the dashboards are available there where you can look at an objective, you can look at a key result, and kind of work through quite a bit of that functionality. And you're able to take and start extending some of this information. And there will be further customizations and extensions coming that'll hopefully help you guys quite a bit. So that's pretty exciting. And then I think next up is, that's a brief overview of Viva Goals. I think next up is, let's go through, I've got a slide here for the Viva Insights public roadmap. So you're welcome to kind of review that. This isn't the wrong place, should be at the tail end of my slides. But let's go into Viva Insights. And what is Viva Insights? Viva Insights just essentially allows both individuals as well as managers of those organizations to get insights on how your employees are doing in terms of their well-being. It does require interaction. It's not something that is fully, hands-off ability, just like Viva Goals. You do have to put in the effort to create the goals and manage and nurture those. Viva Insights is no different. So you get the ability to do things like nudges. I'll give you a quick example here. When you're doing nudges, one of the things you can get is intelligent reminders. Nudges are intelligent reminders to keep up with the demands from a manager. Like, for example, if you want to schedule a one-on-one, we can do that through Viva Insights. Essentially, it's scheduling a meeting, but you can set the occurrence for it through that. And you also get an opportunity to kind of connect with some of your peers. So if Viva Insights will notice, hey, by the way, you have not been talking to Joseph in the last couple of months, and it's been a while since you reconnected. It might highlight, by the way, it's been a while since you connected with Joseph. Do you want to schedule a coffee chat with him? So we'll encourage a little bit more serendipitous connects that you can have. And it will also give you, if you're interested, a daily briefing email as well. So the daily briefing email allows you to, for managers, allows you to kind of catch up on what your team is doing, how they're doing, and also give you, small little nudges around scheduling one-on-ones as well. In terms of nudges themselves, there's this is kind of the experience that it looks like. Part of the nudges, you can also do things like praise. This is kind of showing the praise capability where you want to highlight and give kudos to some of your peers on the great job that they've done. Recognition is so important in terms of employee well-being that if you take opportunities, if not on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, to send out little thank yous, send out little appreciation notes, that goes a long way. And the great thing here is that as you share it, that does eventually start getting rolled up and being highlighted to the managers as well. So a lot of great opportunities there with the send praise functionality. Like I was saying earlier, there are different actions to kind of be reflective of your day. So you have the ability as a manager to look at how your team is doing, where they're spending time, what their quiet hours are generally. Are they working outside of quiet hours? Are they working, do they have meeting time scheduled? How are their team meeting habits? So it gives you a lot of insights around how people are working, and allows you to kind of provide some sort of nudges to your broader team and say, hey, team, I'm noticing, sorry, I'll go back to this. Team, I'm noticing that a lot of us are having meetings outside of work hours. Let's try to reduce some of that. I know it's important to make sure we're connecting, and yeah, would love insights. So you might find that some of your team members are taking time during the day to attend to personal matters, and therefore they're working a little bit later in the evening, but that might end up being disruptive to other team members who are not working in the evening. So it's a healthy kind of check-in to connect and learn about these team habits, learn about the one-on-one time you're spending, as well as the quiet hours that people are have in place. Next up is, similar to that reflective insights, you're going to get those email prompts as well. So this is just a sample example of the email that you might get as part of your kind of monthly digest. And you can go into the Viva Insights application and get insights around your team, what they're working on, how they're doing. So it's the email directs you to the Viva Insights application. When we were talking about like one-on-ones, these are essentially actionable insights or recommended plans you can set up. So for example, here, you can define a no meeting day that needs to be set and block off the calendar, not just for yourself, maybe even for your team members to say, hey guys, this is going to be a no meeting day. This is what we're going to do, so that we don't plan any other meetings and it's just heads down time for us. Sometimes very helpful to encourage, especially high performing employees who are working nonstop, to set aside that time so that they can actually start focusing on their well-being, but also kind of get some work done as well. So pretty big feature set. Like I was sharing earlier, there is a huge roadmap. Would encourage you all to look at the Microsoft roadmap that's available for both Viva Insights as well as Viva Goals. All right, so we had a brief little overview of Viva Insights and Viva Goals features. I just skimmed the surface there. There's so much functionality, and more importantly, there's so much depth in there. I think what's probably important as you adopt and start thinking about these features is, okay, how do I take these features and actually leverage them to help improve not just the company, but leadership as well as employees? So we're going to get into that a little bit. A couple things to be aware of is 81% of leaders are changing their workplace policies to offer greater flexibility. Why? Because we all need it. I pick up my kids from school when they're done at 3 o'clock. That time from 2:30 to 3:30 is booked off for picking up my kids and bringing them home. Sometimes my wife and I alternate, but we set aside focus time. So during that time slot, I prefer not to have any meetings, and especially when I'm driving, prefer not to be on a call unless it's super critical, on a call and talking to somebody or presenting to somebody as well. I want that time with my family. No different than having breakfast, or I've got a dentist appointment coming up, for example, today at 4 o'clock. I'm taking 4 o'clock. My wife is actually picking up the kids today a little bit early because of the snowstorm. And then at 4 o'clock, I have a dentist appointment. So I have that time booked off. So the flexibility is not just during the workday, but there are times where employees want to take an entire day off for errands that they need to run, or they need a mental health wellness day, and they want to work the weekend to kind of catch up on those hours. And leaders need to focus on updating their policies to encourage more of that. There's just this hybrid paradox that we kind of live in. 73% of employees want flexible remote options to stay, and 67% of employees want more in-person work or collaboration. So we all want different things, and we all want the ability, in terms of our needs, they're mixed, right? For every individual who says they can work fully remote, there's going to be people who can say they prefer to work fully in person. The reality is that at some point, they're also going to need to connect and work together as well. And sometimes remote will work and sometimes in person will work, but we need that flexibility. So to help support that, we have to make sure that these kind of themes support individuals, they support managers and leaders. Individuals want the flexibility from working from home. Managers want the ability to kind of stay engaged and productive. And leaders, they want to kind of know everything will be moving forward. And that's what they want to really make sure as employees are able to make that impact on having a great, productive workforce. So let's dive into how do we set that. And I think what I'd like to start with is focusing on OKRs. What is an OKR? It's not a major topic. You can find a lot of information online, but I think it's important to kind of highlight the reasons of why this is important, and how it feeds into the company's vision and mission. So objectives are qualitative, meaning they are measurable, or they can also be aspirational, meaning they're not necessarily, they could be measurable, but they're also goals that might not be realistic. And that's totally okay. But ultimately, there are objectives that you can have that are focused on that. For example, you can have an objective in your organization to say, hey, we're going to improve our marketing funnel to become the vendor of choice in the industry. We just want to be the top vendor, the top services company, the top professional company, the number one generous consulting company there is. All right. Well, how do we actually achieve that? What does that mean? Number one, I think we got clarity there. We want to be number one, and the way we want to do that is improve our marketing funnel. All right. Well, let's set aside some really kind of key results or ways, measurable outcomes that can contribute to achieving that objective. So a couple examples here. You've got a key result. You want to execute 6 targeted lead campaigns by Q1. Key result 2, you want to acquire 950 new MQLs for sales by Q1. And then key result number 3, you want to drive 10 million in marketing generated pipeline by Q1. So you've got 3 clear results. You're like, yeah, these seem realistic or reasonable, and these will help us improve our marketing funnel to become the vendor of choice in the industry. We feel these 3 results will really help that. All right, fantastic. Key results 1 and 2 probably pretty straightforward. We've got tools for that in place. We got a process in place. For key result 3, you know what? Just to make sure we do hit that 10 million, let's make sure we put a project in place. So one of the things you also do is you want to put some sort of initiative or project in place. This is essentially a core set of activities that will be taken to achieve the objective, right? If we meet that key result by this initiative or project, then we'll achieve that objective. So an example here might be product number 1. Let's make sure we update our marketing materials, right? To be able to drive that kind of pipeline, our services offerings, our product offerings, and who we are needs to be, reflect what we're going towards, and make sure we have a very clear line of sight on that. So that is very, very important to kind of make sure we map out. And let's go on to, when we look at the OKRs, then next up is, now that we have an understanding of the OKRs, a common question that we get is, how do the OKRs align to the company? So I just want to highlight, your mission, your values, and your culture, your strategic priorities. Those are your purpose as an organization. Those are set by leadership. Those are kind of defined in your kind of mission statement, your values, your strategic priorities. Then the leadership team, from the executive leadership team, defines the strategic priorities and objectives. Here are the things that we're going to try to achieve, and they give very clear, measurable, or aspirational objectives that need to be met by, their direct reports. Now it comes down to execution. So now you've got to set aside from those objectives, because those are going to be shared, those objectives, and what are the key results and projects associated to that. Very, very important, I think, to make sure when you do adopt an OKR platform or methodology that you really highlight this kind of triangle of how objectives, key results, projects kind of align, who owns what. That is also very important. And how do they kind of map forward? We found the most successful implementation of OKRs is when more employees know how their OKRs align to the broader company goals. The better alignment there is early on, immediately employees and your leadership team are aligned on what the priorities need to be on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, on a monthly and quarterly basis. What are the benefits of OKRs for leadership to be aligned? Of course, you get the benefit of making sure everyone's kind of rowing in the same direction, so there's alignment there. One thing I would definitely encourage is make sure you focus on 3 to 5 OKRs per team per quarter, because this will really help with prioritizing what is important. And the huge benefit of OKRs, of course, is transparency. When you've got a transparent set of goals that everyone has visibility into, it just helps create accountability, but also helps allow others to say, hey, this is either something I can help with, or by the way, I realize this is something you're trying to achieve. I know I'm a blocker right now. Let me help kind of push my project or my objective or key result forward. So you learn about the dependencies, you learn about the roadblocks, but also more importantly, as a team, you learn to kind of work through those. And then as you're looking at this real-time data, it allows you to kind of adapt, right? Sometimes you set 3 to 5 OKRs and you find one of the OKRs is just not getting the right velocity. And that might mean, 2 of the other OKRs need to be prioritized so that the 5th one that's blocked can kind of push forward. So it really helps the team be dynamic. And it really does, it's like a compounding interest. You don't realize how your daily actions kind of lead up and feed into building a great organization, a great company that kind of evokes change. So there's a big driver for growth. And then when employees realize they're driving this growth and they look at, they need to achieve 10 million in revenue, for example, or marketing pipeline, they might be ambitious for next quarter to say, you know what, for Q2, I think we could do 12 million, and here's how we're going to do that. Here's how we're going to scale it. So they actually now end up becoming the champions to encourage that change. There is a maturity model that I'd like you guys to be aware of. This is something that every company is going through and adopting, and we onboard them as well. To lead the company that I'm with as well, we're doing that. We're adopting Viva Goals, and it's a journey for us as well. So let's go through the maturity model and what that looks like. First, you're gonna, in the beginning phase, it's usually when you're starting your journey. That means your organizations in this stage, you're not actively using the OKR methodology today. There's definitely going to be some struggle where some departments are a little bit more on board with the OKRs and some are not. So right now they're struggling to share goals, they're struggling to share progress and results, and that's okay, especially because it might not be consistent enough or with a defined cadence. And then employees just don't know how to track their work and how that contributes to specific goals at the department or the organizational level. So that's when you're just beginning your journey. Once you've gotten kind of past that a little bit, then you're in the piloting stage. This is where you're validating if OKRs in your organization actually make sense and those OKRs are realistic. So you're rolling out a pilot group to iron out the kinks before you roll out to the rest of your organization. And then you're also using that time to understand how OKRs will work for you at scale. And then you also figure out kind of like a nice little rhythm to map out for the OKRs. All right, that's the piloting stage. Next up is the adopting stage. In adopting, you're committed to the OKR practice. You've said, you know what, this is something that I am going to be interested in. And the top levels of your organization are now also developing the OKR muscle and the habit. They're actually starting to see how both the definition as well as the details matter and how they kind of feed into the broader growth of the organization. And they're also starting to pre-seed ideas and philosophies of OKRs within their teams. The great thing is when one-on-ones, quarterly connects, town halls also start including OKRs in team meetings. I think that's a huge win when you start having them a little bit be more visible, because then what you're getting at that adopting stage is company-wide collaboration on OKRs begins. Next up is scaling, rolling out OKRs broadly. If you're rolling out OKRs to your entire organization, that means OKRs are a part of your routine. They're part of your rituals, and your team is now comfortable creating new ones. And now you've actually invested so much into it, you've decided that you're going to do organization-wide training. It might include a training site, might include training your leaders. That starts. And last but not least is centering. This is when, at this point, leadership doesn't have to be in the room with decisions on which organization, which OKRs make sense or which ones should be created. And that's because everyone understands the organization's mission, the values, and the strategy. This is a place where you want to be, where employees feel there is purpose in the work that they do. They understand the definition of success, and they're aligned to their teams and their team members. So everyone in your organization is now clear on the focus and the specified outcomes of their work and how these align to the teams that surround them. Some tips and tricks here for you guys, and I think there's a few more that are coming. OKRs are so critical. What makes them successful, or wide adoption of OKRs. OKRs underpin the culture of the organization. There is executive sponsorship. There's a established business rhythm. There's greater transparency across all the different levels and teams. There's greater alignment across the teams and organizations. There's enhanced scoring and reflection, and there's a dedicated ownership of OKR program management. You actually have somebody dedicated to leveraging that. This is so important. I think if you have this kind of a program team to manage OKRs, make sure they also have their own OKRs as well. The scoring and reflection, I think I just want to highlight that one. The scoring should be completed in parallel with deep reflection exercises that evaluate both the team and the OKR performance, if you can, especially at the end of the cycle review. So reflecting on this progress is important when evaluating what could be done differently or better during the following quarter. Here's, I think achieving OKR maturity takes time and commitment, but the benefits that you see as a result will be transformative to every part of your business. Wholeheartedly agree with that. This is a quote from Vetri Villor, who's the CVP of Viva Goals, originally the founder of Ally.io. Some of the biggest challenges that you're going to have in adopting OKR and being mature in that is, number one, is lack of focus. Many organizations they're going to make mistakes of adding OKRs anytime they need to add to their to-do list. So they're going to have too many OKRs, which is going to cause the team to lack focus. To keep goals on tracks, the best practice, again, is to decide on 3 to 5 objectives, each with 3 to 5 key results at one time. Don't go overboard with OKRs. Lack of patience. Implement an OKR framework that takes planning and dedication, but it can be tempting. It can be tempting to give up after a few short months of trying it out. So to reach full maturity, an organization must be committed to OKRs and be willing to wait up to a year for results to become obvious. And lack of regular check-ins. Without those frequent check-ins that you're going to have, it's going to be difficult to keep OKRs on track and aligned with a big picture. Try to do a weekly cadence for OKRs to review that, and then adjust accordingly. Like sometimes you might find every week connecting on the progress of a project might go a long way, or it might be every other week. So just continue to make adjustments on what makes sense. Try to make sure it's at least at least once a month. And then lack of regular check-ins, lack of mission, lack of values. Those are going to be challenging. If you're not checking in frequently, that's a challenge. But also, if you don't have clarity on what the mission, the vision, and the values are, it's just going to really not highlight that sense of purpose for employees. A couple of myths that I want to try to bust here. OKRs. One common, challenge concern that we usually get is that OKRs are meant to be a measure of individual performance. OKRs measure business success, not individual success. So OKR output should be one of the many inputs into an assessment of individual's performance, but not the only input. So use them as a framework, as a guidance, and they should not be generally directly tied to individuals' compensation. And then, when you're looking at other myths that are there, and there's many that we run into pretty often here when we're helping organizations adopt Viva Goals and Viva Insights. OKRs or Viva Goals is not a way to manage a business as usual tasks, right? So OKRs are used to track aspirational goals that drive a business forward, not day-to-day work. And just for leadership, to get an entire organization focused and aligned on strategic priorities involving the whole organization, in OKRs is key. That's the maturity model in terms of where you are, and it's totally okay if you're piloting OKRs, but there's some areas of beginning that you haven't moved forward with. That's totally okay. And it's totally okay if you're scaling OKRs broadly, but you're not fully there. I'll highlight some best practices on OKRs, as is so instrumental in helping align and drive employee experience and getting leadership aligned here. Is number one, identify a committed executive sponsor and make sure they're driven by this and make sure they're driving towards this. And it's the overall program, not just within the individual teams. Delegate ownership and scale through local OKR champions. Make sure you have a network of local OKR champions to evangelize the change and provide avenues for employees to get support. Build a public timeline linked with key planning milestones. Hold your team accountable and create a valuable sense of urgency. If you leave it and you've given everybody access to it, and you're not following through and having very clear decisions or dates on when OKRs need to be built and designed, you leave it to the team, it might get lost in terms of priorities, and that's understandable. But give people a date and then have a way to kind of review that with them. Last but not least, communicate clear expectations and create a community. So important to do this because it'll make sure that what you're asking for is crystal clear at all points of the process. Those are some of the ways to get leadership aligned. That was for Viva Goals. For Viva Insights, a couple of things to be aware of is that within Viva Insights, you are going to have leadership insights that'll help you kind of understand the impact of work that people have and the goals, and it will try to provide you some actionable recommendations. For manager insights, it'll help you identify the work patterns that can lead to burnout and stress. So it will give you actionable recommendations there. For individual insights, it'll help you identify opportunities to change how you work. So it helps you to kind of nurture your well-being and improve your productivity. Make sure you're working with your IT leader as well as an analyst or a company to support creating custom analytics so that you can actually get more insights than what is being shared with you here out of the box. The personal insights for building better work habits is amazing. It's phenomenal. Really encourage that for you to look at in terms of how to drive some of those data-driven decisions. You're going to get everything from a briefing email from Microsoft Viva to encouraging you to kind of connect with important people in your network, even scheduling focus time. One thing that I haven't personally tried is just doing the virtual commute. I haven't tried that, to be honest, but that's something else to kind of consider as you're kind of adopting Viva Insights. All right, those are some of the insights around Viva Insights and Viva Goals. And I think what we have next is learning about real-world use cases and how Viva Insights and Viva Goals can help. I wanted to kind of just really showcase a lot of these organizations. Some we worked with, some our partners have worked with. They really kind of highlight the challenges that all of us are facing. So I think it's really important to recognize that we're all kind of going through this together and learning and adapting and adopting tools like Viva Goals and Viva Insights will help you kind of improve the employee experience. So the first one is Unilever. They've got about 400 brands that received kind of huge demand during the pandemic, right? With them overseeing those 400 demands, a lot of the employees saw longer work days and just quite a bit of effort for them. Their biggest takeaway with adopting Viva Insights and a few other Viva tools was that number one, they realized through the insights that they gathered that those employees that actually took break time felt much happier about their well-being. They were able to correlate that relationship through some custom analytics and see that those that took breaks, their well-being that they were representing, that they were communicating was much higher. They also ran an adoption campaign because of that insight that they learned from those custom analytics. They ran an adoption campaign to encourage all employees to book a little bit more focused time and encourage them to set aside that time so that they're not jumping from meeting to meeting. They actually have the opportunity to do work, and ultimately what they drove towards, and they saw this over a 3 to 6 month pilot, was that they ultimately were promoting a greater work-life balance for employees. If you'd like to read more about this case study and others, I encourage you to check out the links that are in the slide deck. I'll also be posting this on LinkedIn. Fannie Mae, as an organization, they've been gaining a lot of maturity in terms of their usage of technology. The pandemic hit them quite a bit, and a lot of changes because a lot of the work that was done in the finance kind of industry and the banking industry was in person. They needed to learn how to quickly adopt new tools and processes. So as they adopted Viva Insights and a few of the Viva product suite modules, biggest outcomes were they learned and they gained insights on how employees work This is visibility that they never had, primarily because a lot of them had to shift over to being remote. A lot of employees. So they gained quite a bit of insights of just even the out of the box Viva Insight reports that are available. And they were able to then actually take a lot of those lessons learned and improve the onboarding process for their employees. So as new employees were onboarded and they were working towards being remote, they were given recommendations around focus time and setting aside time for themselves and making sure they have a no meeting day, patterns like that have really helped quite a bit. And I think one important call out here is that they encourage focus time for to block in their calendar for not just work, but also for family parties as well. So if they needed to go to a dentist appointment or a doctor's, or they need to spend time or pick up their kids, that was encouraged that they could do that in their work calendar and set aside that time. So it's a good reminder for them, but also their peers and the work that they do. Last but not least, Humana, who's in kind of the healthcare space. They've got 50,000 associates, and they had a work from home mandate that made them kind of really look at how they need to empower their employees. Part of the outcomes of this case study was that they got an opportunity to take a step back and empower their teams by not attending every meeting or driving every decision. This is huge for their leadership team to trust the employees, but more importantly, work on a framework that encourages people to make decisions and make data-driven decisions and keep leadership informed when appropriate. And I think ultimately, one of the biggest things that Humana learned out of this was they were able to see signs of when people were potentially going to be burning out, when they were at the risk of burnout. They were working too hard, working late nights, working weekends, and encouraging those employees to take time off and make sure they focus and get them the support that they needed. So quite a bit of successes there that I want to encourage. I think two calls to action here would be, number one, make sure you, if you're looking to adopt Viva Insights, would encourage you to have a look at an action here. This is something that I can share with you guys as well. Feel free to reach out. It is doing essentially like a questionnaire on your end and how your organization is, how your not just usage of Microsoft and technology is, but also how your employees are. This is generally something that kicks off a kind of a Microsoft-led motion where you can do a pilot of Viva Insights and other Viva modules to support the employee experience. So this is a great way to kind of get started. Feel free to reach out to me on that one. And then for Viva Goals, what I would encourage is have a look at running a pilot for Viva Goals as well. Typically within 4 to 6 weeks is kind of the timeline that we would encourage for a small proof of concept, a small pilot for a small team to look at adopting and using Viva Goals and kind of translating the goals that are identified within the organization and how to adopt them and how to add them to both Viva Goals, but also start looking at things like integrations with other systems and how that can continue improving. All right, I think that's it on my end. I'd love to open it up in terms of questions. Really appreciate everyone jumping on, spending some time here as we kind of gone through how Viva Goals and Insights kind of come together to improve the employee experience. Would encourage you all to look at some of our resources. We recently written an employee experience white paper that helps kind of give you a definite guide on how to adopt and improve your usage of both Microsoft 365, Viva, but more importantly, improve that experience for employees. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kanwal, and it's really great session. And I mean, as I said, like we are learning more and more on Viva parts, and, but everything is different. Every session is different by their own way, and it's really helpful for all our company requirements. And definitely, you showed us very nice way how we can integrate these and why we are using OKRs and what are the benefits. Everything like you covered up in your session, and it's really, I really enjoyed it, and we all enjoyed it actually. Till
I
now, I
appreciate
didn't
that.
find any question yet. Probably
That's okay. Yeah, you guys are welcome to be shy. It's totally okay. No pressure there. Feel free to ask questions here, and we've got an amazing speaker coming up as well in about 10 minutes, who's going to be kind of giving you a broader view of the Microsoft Viva Suite. Just to call it on my end is please make sure if you do get a chance to share some feedback. Would love that both for the event and the organizers, as well as for me to improve and content you might be looking for. And yeah, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn as well. Happy to answer any questions, give you a deeper dive demo on some of the features that we highlighted here and showcased, and how we can help your organization and your employees not just be productive, but have a good, really good quality of life.
definitely yes. We can contact whenever we want, and we have everything, all information with us. And thank you so much for sharing a very nice, very great session. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.